So I'll give you an example, Joe. We recently sold the property. It was a buyer that wanted to buy his first investment property, and he's been wanting to do it for 3 to 4 years. But essentially, I noticed that once he saw what a good investment property looked like, because it needed a lot of work, he got scared, and he was thinking that he was probably going to have to spend like $100,000 fixing up the property. When the reality was that if you take that property with a little bit of paint, a little bit of changing the flooring, reglazing the kitchen cabinets, or repainting the kitchen cabinets, reglazing the bathrooms, the property would look completely different. So I think that's one of the aspects, Joe, where most people are really scared. So like when purchasing a property like that, what should a buyer do to make sure that they're buying a property? Like, is there any inspections that they should do? Any tips and tricks, anything to watch out for during that process to make sure that they're not getting into a project that maybe is over their head? What would you recommend in that situation?
Absolutely. So, every single person will have their own opinions, right? How they see their own experiences. So I just would like to disclaim that what I'm going to say is just my opinion, what worked and what didn't work, right? And I think it's important because everyone there's no a truth. The only truth is your truth. And I would say that the first thing I want to say is at the beginning of this session, this meeting, you said that it's important to have the right team, the right direction, the right mentors. So that's one part. The other part is there's no tricks, right? You're asking me for a little bit of information. Yeah, getting an inspector is really important, right? Having an inspector, having a contractor is super important. Having the right tools, having the right deal analyzer, repair estimator. This is the information we all need to know to make an educated assessment. But having said that, there's no shortcuts or tricks. There's little things that we learn along the way. But this is a life choice. Being an investor, it's a life choice. And the more you know, the more you can just kind of relax and kind of lean back. But yeah, there's a lot of value that I can, from creating your asset strategy, right? Like always, when you're buying a house, before you buy an apartment, you got to get your strategy right. You got to get your exit strategy right. You have to get your asset protection. What happens in a building? God forbid your tenant, gets, mold or gets into an accident. And, I have a lot of friends that, when I interview them in the past, and sometimes I get to learn that they own 30 buildings, or they have 10 properties at the same time, and they use one entity. You don't want to do that, right? You always want to have different entities. So that's a little something that is important to plant in people's mind. Having the right asset protection strategy, right? Having the right documents. Go ahead.
So let's say it's a first-time investor and they're looking to do their first deal. Obviously, we're talking long-term, right? We're talking about hey, eventually, if you want it to own 10 properties, is a really bad idea, because essentially if somebody sues you and you got all your properties in that entity, essentially they can go after all your properties.